Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Cooney from Affinity Management Services. I'm part of the business development team here. I'd like to welcome everyone and thank you for spending your time with us this morning. We have an all-star cast of representatives from top technology providers that work in the association space. We're excited to have them here. I'd like to introduce Justin Mila with Hotwire.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Justin Mila. Thanks for the introduction, Chris. I'm the Senior Business Development Director for Miami-Dade County and the Keys. Proud to be here with you guys.
Also, we have Andrew Armanus, Sales Director for Butterfly MX.
Thanks, Chris. Good morning, everybody. Pleasure being here. Andrew Armanus, Sales Director for Butterfly MX.
And last but not least, we have Frank Valdez, Florida Director for Get Quorum.
Morning, everyone. Good to be with you. Thank you for your time today. I'm the Regional Director in the state of Florida for Get Quorum. Been here a little over 5 years. So very excited. I want to thank Affinity and everybody for having us on board today.
Excellent. So Justin, I'd like to start with you since all of these other services we're going to talk about rely on having solid internet. So Hotwire Communications is an internet provider, but a little bit different perhaps than traditional cable or other types of service. Can you describe for people that don't know much about you, kind of how you work and how it gets installed?
Absolutely. But before I dive into what we do, I'd like to just dive into who we are as an organization. So for those that don't know, Hotwire is actually the largest privately held internet service provider in the country. Proud to say we're also the largest woman-owned internet service provider in the country, focusing on specifically condo, HOAs, co-ops, multifamily environments. One of our biggest differentiators from the traditionals is how we provide service. We're an all-fiber company from day one. So we were established in 2002 with the vision of fiber leading the path forward. And that's what's been able to earn us our success over the years. So we're providing services like IPTV, television over the internet protocol, extremely high-speed internet services, and then your traditional home phone services and alarm services are some of the services we provide to our communities.
So, Justin, in your experience, what type of services are communities getting? Are they opting for the phone? Is it just internet, or is there some blend of content that's also in the mix?
So that's the beauty of partnering with a company like ours. We understand that it's not a one size fits all. It's not a transaction. It's really a relationship that we're building with the communities, and part of that is really finding out what makes sense for the demographic. Specifically down here in Miami and the Keys, we still see that in a lot of our communities, internet and television, those combinations are valued in the bulk space. That we still have a high take rate in both video and fiber internet services. Other markets like the Palm Beaches, they value voice on top of that as well, and/or alarm services for homes. So it's a combination of it. It really just depends on the dynamics and the needs of your community.
Thank you. And by the way, for the benefit of our viewers, if you have a question that you'd like to ask, please utilize the Q&A section. We'll be visiting those throughout the session. And our intent here is to have the presentation part go until about 15 minutes remaining in the hour, and we'll make sure that we address any questions that come through. But so Justin, when you deploy your internet service in a community, are there certain hotspots like near the pool or just in the common areas where residents can also access, or is it just limited to the home and the office?
So that's a great question. So look, as part of being a partner with the communities, one of the things that we love doing is making sure that we're not just equipping your home with the latest and greatest in terms of technology, but also the common areas that your residents tend to congregate into. So the pool, the clubhouse, the gym. You want to make sure that you have an exceptional experience outside of your home and within your home. So we will typically install hotspots in, clubhouses, gyms, all your traditional common areas, the pool, to make sure that you have that same seamless experience, whether you're in your home or wandering throughout your community's common areas.
Is there also an option for an internal communication channel for the community?
Absolutely. I think you can align with this. No matter how often you email your residents, send out notifications, someone's bound to miss it. So we actually have a built-in platform through our IPTV tool, Vision TV Plus, that allows boards, management teams to actually send out notifications directly to your residents' television sets. So it's another way of actually getting connected with your community. I live in a community that happens to use that quite a bit as well. That we actually publicize board meetings, or our annual pool party, barbecues, or things that are happening around town, whether it's traffic patterns or future projects. That's a really great tool that we integrate directly into our Vision TV Plus video product that also ties into the app, so you can engage and really connect with your residents in a more meaningful manner.
And as we get near the start of another hurricane season, I can see the value of that in sending out emergency notices as a storm approaches. But on the subject of storms or other types of outages, I know tech vendors usually have some type of return to service objective. Let's say there's a hurricane comes through, the service is disrupted. What does Hotwire strive to achieve as far as getting back online?
So there's a couple of questions, a couple of ways I can respond to that. But one of the things that I want to call out is we have a dedicated team called the Vision Response Team. We're a nationwide company, so we're not just dealing with the wrath of a hurricane down here in South Florida, but we're prepared as an organization to deal with fire, floods, tornadoes. Preparing for hurricanes down here in South Florida is a year-round event. So it doesn't start at the very beginning of hurricane season, which is just a couple of days away, and it's a constant year-round process, making sure that we're ready. And when a storm does hit, being ready to actually come out and turn up our communities. Knock on wood, during the last storm that hit South Florida, Miami in particular, we did not lose a single property on our network ring. We were all online. So long as you had power at your facility, you had internet at your facility. And that's also part of how we build our communities. In our traditional telco rooms, we'll have up to 10 hours with a battery reserve. So if there is a power outage, whether it's temporary or long-term, we can stand up your services, make sure that all your common areas are running, and then immediately after a hurricane, once it's safe to hit the road, we equip all of our rooms with generator interconnects. So we have a fleet of diesel generators that we can bring to our properties to make sure that our equipment's turned up. So if you have power in your home, you have service, or if you need a place to congregate like your common areas, we're live and ready to go, so you can get your services as you desire.
Thanks. Justin, I also noticed in your industry that the agreements tend to be fairly long, about 10 years, I'd say. To me, that seems a bit daunting. If I were a board member getting ready to enter into a contract, I mean, just think 10 years ago, most people were not working at home streaming on a meeting like this while somebody else in the house is streaming Netflix in another room. So the bandwidth requirements today are much different than they were 10 years ago, and who knows what's coming next. But how can an association kind of protect themselves or make sure that their technology is current as they get into an agreement?
It's a great question. And again, going back to the partnership part of it. So our initial terms, just because of the cost of the capital outlay to build to a community, our initial terms are about 10 years. But we want to make sure that you're protected as a community, as an association. And we want to make sure that you're comfortable with us as a partner. We bake into all of our agreements technology review clauses and speed review clauses. So let's be real. Within the next couple of years, while 300 megs might be adequate today for the average family of 4, cars might be flying. Your kids might have 3D glasses that change the channel, and bandwidth needs may change. So all of our agreements have technology review clauses baked in, whether it's year 3, 6, 9, or commitments that ensure that you're always at or above the state's medium speeds. So that's one of the ways that we protect our clients, to make sure that you always have the latest and greatest, regardless of when you signed and what you signed for.
Excellent. Justin, last couple questions, really just explain how it gets installed, like in an HOA setting, and also maybe contrast that to a high rise.
So really the biggest differences is how we're building. HOAs tend to be a little more difficult, only because you're horizontal, you're much larger. But typically, as we enter into an agreement, the first thing we're doing is having a discussion with the board and making sure that we're communicating with our residents, our clients. So the expectations are set from the very beginning. Anytime we come into an HOA environment, we always hand trench, and we do that for a reason. It's a lot more difficult, but we avoid major utilities. We avoid damage to your existing infrastructure. If we do damage something, we flag it and repair it immediately. So typically in an HOA environment, we're turning those communities up within 180 to 200 days, if not less. High rise is typically a lot easier. We typically have conduits already in place. It's just a matter of logistics and coordinating access into the unit. But one thing that I can say, whether you're a high rise or an HOA, we always restore our communities back to the original condition. And this is a long-term partnership. So the last thing we want is someone saying, you signed up with us, but now our lawn's destroyed. Yeah, no, part of the process of onboarding is making sure that we've restored your green space or your hallways back to original condition. If there's any damage, we repair. And then that leads into our account management team that takes care of the community into perpetuity.
All right, Justin, I'm looking at the Q&A. I had two questions that I believe are aimed for you, so I'll just deal with those now. One is Mike has a question about our community has a contract with Xfinity. How does your service fit in with the Xfinity service?
So Mike, great question. So we're a direct competitor with Xfinity. So if you'd like, we can definitely have a conversation privately. But in essence, we be your replacement to your existing Xfinity services. We can provide this much faster speeds up to 10 gigs today, and we're testing speeds up to 25 and 50 gig to the individual home with a superior video product and product offering set that I'm sure your residents will be very happy with.
A different cable too, correct?
Yes.
Right. Next question is, does your company require all residents to participate?
So typically when you're entering into a bulk service like agreement, yes, that we ask that the community select a package that meets the needs of all residents, and you do all have the buy-in, just like you do with your current bulk provider. It's baked into the condo dues, the HOA dues. Now, you don't necessarily have to take the product. We would highly encourage that you do, but the FCC does allow you protection. So if you wanted to keep your traditional phone line with your other provider, you can do that. Or if you just want to wait a little while and wait for your neighbor's feedback before you make that jump, that's definitely an option for you as well. But no, we can't necessarily, we nor your property management firm can force the product on to you, but we really want to strive to make sure that it's a product worth your residents buying into.
Thank you, Justin. I want to turn now to Frank Valdez, Florida Director of Get Quorum, and you provide electronic voting services. Briefly tell us kind of what that is and how it works.
Absolutely. And thank you again for having me. And thank you everyone for being on the call today. First and foremost, we need internet. So I want to also thank Justin for being on the call. Right. As we know today, it's almost necessary for every single person. As I mentioned, I'm the regional director in the state of Florida and Get Quorum specifically, just to kind of walk you through what we have done. We've been in business for almost 10 years, providing electronic voting services to over 3,000 communities. The statutes in 2015 changed and allowed for Florida condo co-ops and HOAs to implement electronic voting in their communities, right? The reason that was significant is because as we fast forward to kind of today and through a full pandemic here in the state of Florida, we now have access to an electronic voting option for owners. So owners can vote electronically from just about anywhere in the world that they have access to their internet, their email as well. So the implementation of electronic voting is based on an electronic voting statute for each kind of homeowner association or condo co-op. Make sure that you guys are privy to those, that you're connected with your association council. So I'll be happy to share them. I'll actually write them in the chat in just a little bit. But whether it's our 718s, 19s, or 20s on the call today, the journey does begin with the board deciding that they want to allow the option of electronic voting in the community. That's the very first step for everybody on the call today, just so you're aware of that. And as a provider of electronic voting, I'm happy to walk you guys through that as you connect with us on a more one-to-one basis. The second steps for implementing electronic voting is to get owners to opt in or consent to electronic voting. That is a completely optional service for them. If they want to continue to receive paper-based notices and paper-based voting option, they have to take absolutely no action and they will continue to receive those notices. But generally speaking, we get a high amount of participation for e-voting. And then the third steps is just to deploy your electronic voting option for these owners. And that, again, as a full service provider, whether it's us or any other electronic voting vendor, you're going to get an opportunity to increase your participation big time.
Thanks, Frank. I really think, South Florida is an ideal market for what you provide. When you think about snowbirds, international investors, and people here that are just plain busy, it makes a lot of sense that you can see an increase in participation among community members there. So in your experience, what do you see as an overall percentage of a resident community? How many people will typically opt in, and does it change from year one to year two?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question, Chris, and thank you for that. In terms of Florida specifically, our benchmark is currently at north of 70% of the owners. So year one, our expectations is north of 70% of the owners in any given community, even our 55 and olders out there, and we've got quite a few of them, including Century Village on the East Coast and on the West Coast, some other communities as well. So that's what it looks like. Our expectation for the very first year. Year two looks like 80% of the owners opted into electronic voting and electronic notices as well for the community. Those are massive numbers, the likes of which communities have never seen prior to engaging with electronic voting. The general paper consents or opt-in rates are usually about 20%. So if you left everything exactly the way you had it today and never implements electronic voting, your participation rates will look like something around 20% versus 80%.
So that could represent a substantial savings in terms of having to print and mail association packets for the meetings, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest benefits, other than participation rates, which we've helped with communities, update governing docs, right, that are from 1971, I saw just a few weeks ago, and they were still developer documents, so they had never updated. So other than that, and the increase in participation to get some of this business done in the communities, I would definitely have to say that the other massive, kind of feature and benefit here would be the reduction in printing and postage. So on average, if we get 70% of the owners to opt into electronic notices and e-voting, you can expect a direct reduction in printing and postage by the likes of 70 to 80%. So generally, electronic voting is budget neutral for your community and provides a ton of features to assist you with things like even bulk cable contract voting, right? So if that comes up and you've got a community that's got to vote on that, we can help with a whole array of things. But yeah, absolutely, Chris, to your point, there is going to be a massive reduction in printing and postage in the communities.
You just led me to another question, because I think of electronic voting in terms of the annual meeting, but what other ways can a community benefit from using electronic voting?
Yeah, definitely. So look, beyond the annual meeting, which is probably the number one call that we get, right? We've got an upcoming annual meeting. We've got like some owner participation, some elections. Beyond that, I would definitely have to say our condos in Florida give us a call for things like material alteration votes, right? I remember Mirador 1000 over in Miami Beach needed a material alteration vote for their pool area, and they couldn't move forward without an official owner vote and without quorum for that. So whether it's a material alteration vote, whether it is a special assessment vote, reserve funding votes, or things like declaration amendments or bylaw amendments, any kind of a topic in the community that requires or triggers a membership vote. I mentioned bulk cable contracts, right? Anything that requires or triggers a membership-based binding vote for the community, you can leverage electronic voting to use it exactly for that. And I promise you, you'll get, again, a massive amount of participation, the likes of which you've never seen before by paper.
So Frank, I was at a legislative update the other night, and they were talking about the My Safe Florida program, the flavor of it that they have for condos. And it's my understanding they have proposed that instead of 100% participation by members, now they're trying to make it 75. And I've always recommended electronic voting as a way to get that project. If a building is going to do a re-roof anyway, or new windows, take advantage of a system like yours and make sure you get that participation.
Absolutely. And for votes like that, Chris, to your point, the participation rates are high, but keep in mind for everybody on the call today, paper votes will count as well, right? So if there's any owners that cast any sort of paper votes, those can be added to electronic votes. So this isn't a one size fits all. This is an all-inclusive, whether you're a paper voter or an electronic voter. Again, we see high participation rates in there. All of those votes can be counted, and you'll know exactly how the vote is trending in terms of something like a roofing project, right? Whether you have enough votes for that.
So Frank, I will say I've gotten pushback at times from boards or association members that they don't necessarily trust electronic voting. They don't know that it's secure or it can be hacked. How do you address that?
Yeah, definitely. And just to kind of walk it back there, look, I've been a board member in my own HOA, 415 unit association here in Florida. Prior to being in this role that I've been at for almost 5 years, I was just a regular citizen in my community. So I probably would have been apprehensive as to how this system works. My recommendation to everybody on the call today is to fully vet any electronic voting provider. Make sure you ask questions such as if they're compliant with the current Florida statutes that govern electronic voting. Those ensure the validity, the secrecy of votes. They ensure the security of an electronic vote. Every and any platform that you use out there for electronic voting should contain the following. Number one, encryption behind the links that are being sent to the owners to allow for electronic voting. Secondly, full secrecy if it is obviously a secret ballot in this situation. And I think last but not least, in terms of the owner's experience, make sure that it is providing a detailed itemized receipt to the owners. I love that because the owners can get together at their local coffee shop and compare their receipts to the final results. So Chris, just to be clear with everybody on the call today, the statutes do afford that every single owner that votes electronically be given an itemized electronic receipt. So that's going to say the dates you voted, the time, how you voted specifically for that matter. Again, you combine those receipts as owners, right? You should have the full and final results for the community without any funny business in the back end. For us, as Get Quorum as a provider, we've taken the security very seriously. We've partnered up with Amazon Web Services, AWS, to not only make sure that the data is secure, but that it is redundantly being stored. And we've worked with a lot of election monitors in the state of Florida. So I'll leave it at that. They've vetted our system. They've looked through our system, and a lot of law firms also out there. So make sure, again, you're asking the right questions and you're getting a full response, and that you involve your association attorney into making sure that the platform that you're picking is right for your use case and it is secure.
Thank you, Frank. Last but not least, Andrew Armanus with Butterfly MX. I see your panels in my travels, and maybe briefly describe what it is that you provide in terms of access control.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. We are a smart video intercom company. We also provide access control, so intercoms at the front door, access control throughout amenity doors, as well as security cameras.
Can people access it through their smartphone, or do they have to carry on a fob or a card, or like how does that work?
Every person that lives in the community will get a Butterfly MX app. They can essentially open up any door from the app, but also we have the flexibility to have a fob, a PIN code, essentially any mode of these things can work with Butterfly MX.
All right. How can residents provide access for a guest, whether it's maybe a one-time use or you have a weekly housekeeper? How can that be set up?
Yeah, so if a guest is coming to the property, they can actually search a name on a directory. It's like a touch screen. You can search a name, make a call. That call goes to the resident's phone. It's a FaceTime call, so you can see the person is coming in and unlock the door for them. But to your point as well, there is a few different, we have like a visitor pass for a nanny, a dog walker that can be set up through the app, and it can be customized for a one-time visit or a couple of days visit, as well as for like deliveries. So for example, an Uber Eats or a DoorDash, you can send a one-time code. So when the delivery person comes in, puts the code in, the residents get notified that hey, your delivery arrived, and it also takes a picture of that person from the intercom as well. So there's a few different ways that we can do it. And we're a cloud-based company, so we can customize everything to specific communities as well.
So you're basically generating an activity log for anybody that's coming in or out. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So anytime somebody comes in and interact with the panel, there is a time and date stamp, and that lives on the cloud for 12 months. So the residents will get their own login. So if I let somebody in, I will get that login. Hey, I let Chris in at 2:00. Here's a picture of Chris. The property manager or admin will see the login for everybody that comes into the community.
Does the resident have to be home to let the guest in, or is that something they can do from the app?
I had people are like traveling in the summer in France, and they let their delivery in from the app.
Excellent.
A little shameless plug here. When I built my home, I built it with a platform called Brilliant, and Andrew's product actually integrated directly into my community's Butterfly MX system. It's a great platform. It's very easy for the average user to use and engage with. A very intuitive platform.
I'm an unpaid advertiser as well, and I love the platform. I've seen it out there in condos and HOAs, and just by far from a user experience, it's been extremely easy.
So, and this can be set up
Yes.
at the front of a condo building or at a gatehouse, right? In an HOA.
Yeah, absolutely. So at, like, let's say you're a high-rise, mid-rise, this can be set up at the front of the building as an entrance, and it can trigger the door, so to unlock or lock. Also at a gated communities, it can be set up at the gate or at the side of the gate, and it can trigger the relays for the gates as well. We also have, like, for a gated communities or like communities that has garages, we have like a vehicle reader with little tags that can also, for residents, you can just drive up and it opens the gate for them.
And it's still keeping activity logs of those, so like the residents in an HOA drive in through the one lane. You're capturing all of that.
Absolutely. And that, to that point too, Chris, like, let's say some residents left the community and they didn't give you back your tag, you can go in the system and disable those tags for people that left as well.
Nice. Now, I get a lot of questions about cameras. Every association, maybe they have some cameras or they want to update the cameras they have. And it's my understanding that you can incorporate cameras into your system. In 2025, what type of cameras or camera resolution can people expect?
We have a really high resolution. I think it's around 6 megabits or 6 megabits. Also, the cameras record the footage in HD and stores it in HD. And another really cool functionality is, as I mentioned earlier, when I'm coming in the front door, it takes a picture of me, right? And then if you have a camera in the lobby, now I can have something called video filtering, where I can get the time and date stamp of me coming in and a video of what happened afterward as well.
Yes, you're leading me to my next question, and that's, let's say that we've installed your cameras. Well, another question right after this, but we've installed your cameras and it captures some incident that the association is going to need to preserve for a police report or some type of incident or legal proceeding. How do we make sure that data does not get overwritten?
Yeah, so your data, like on a cloud, for the time and date stamp is stored for 12 months. Data for the cameras, we have 3 different levels. We have a 7-day storage, and a 30-day storage, and 90-day storage. You can at any moment go into the back end and download any of that data immediately. I'll give you a good example. We installed this in a community at the gate where somebody hit the gate and kept going. And they had the Butterfly MX system at the front, at the intercom, and then camera at the gate as well. So we were able to capture the person's face that's coming into the community, and also the car coming into, like, who actually made that incident. And they had a camera at the bottom that got the license plate as well. So we're covered from all areas. And the community actually sent me this information. They're like, wow, look, we had this problem before. We couldn't ever able to capture it. Now we capture it in like a minute.
Thank you. And a reminder to our viewers, if you do have any questions, please feel free to utilize the Q&A section, as we'll get to those at the end here. So the cameras, can those be set up so that they're watching over the pool area, let's say? Can you set them up so that they're motion detected, or is it just constant recording?
For now, it's constantly recording, but we'll have motion detection cameras by the end of Q3. So you're looking at maybe the end of the summer, we'll have it rolled out completely. It's in beta testing right now.
I see. So in terms of a security perspective and an event log, it seems like a service like yours can provide a lot of value to a community. Have you seen communities realize any additional financial benefits, let's say, where they maybe have 24-hour staff at a gatehouse or a front desk? And have you seen any associations where they say, okay, maybe we don't need somebody at the front desk at 3 in.the morning. Let's use your system as a supplement?
Great question, Chris.
Good morning.
Good morning. Great
Hold on
question.
1 second.
Sure.
Oh, shoot.
Okay, so back to your question. So a perfect example of this, we are installed in a master homeowners association in Florida. That's about 10,000 homes, and across different communities, they were spending more than $1 million in security, and different people at the front gate or roving security. Where we, after implementing Butterfly MX, I believe they saved around $300,000 a year, just combination of human touch plus the technology. It's the best fit. They also did an analysis, and to your point, after midnight they only get three like visitors, not residents, three visitors to the community, and they're spending sometimes in the high five figures or six figures on that just one shift. So it pays for the Butterfly MX system 10 times more.
Outstanding. All right, checking the Q&A. We have a couple more here. Oh yeah, so somebody made a point about Get Quorum that in addition to the electronic voting, that you have the ability to print and mail the packets out to the residents. Frank, I know at one time you guys were hosting meetings or had that as an option. Are you still doing that, or?
Yeah, definitely. So our services extend to electronic notices, surveys, electronic voting, obviously binding votes, and hosted virtual meetings. We're seeing a big jump, a big rise in the state of Florida for what we call hybrid meetings, annual meetings. So owners would be logging in perhaps to a Zoom or virtual meeting option. And then, of course, there would be an in-person moderation as well. So what we've done is on our end handled the virtual meeting aspect, whether it's the links that are being sent out to the owners or moderator, virtual moderator in that space, to make sure that the manager can focus on just the in-person attendees. But yes, we absolutely host and moderate annual meetings for our HOAs, condos, and co-ops. Many of the HOAs, Chris, actually still have things like nominations from the floor and voting the day up. So if that's your specific case out there, please connect with us. We're happy to assist and walk you guys through. And if it's not with us, any electronic voting provider that you connect with, make sure that they can handle things like nominations from the floor out there. But that should come by way of a hosted virtual meeting, to your point.
Thank you. Justin, I want to see if you can share with us any parting thoughts or things to look out for from Hotwire.
No, so look, as a company of constant innovation, we're always upgrading and looking to exceed what we put in the market yesterday for the next generation going forward. But we just got a question in the Q&A. Andrew asked, our 500 unit condo just renewed with a cable provider because of an over $80,000 savings over the life of the contract versus fiber. What are some key messages about the value of fiber that might work best for our owners, primarily concerned about saving money? So here's one thing I can say. As a board member, as a resident, your job is to maintain value in the community, to make sure that the resident experience is exceptional. Looking into infrastructure types, traditional coaxial-based networks, unfortunately in coastal environments, much like South Florida, they tend to corrode and decay over time. So it's not a matter of if you're going to go fiber, it's a matter of when you go fiber. There are some inherent limitations as far as technology and how fast that the speeds that you can achieve off that existing network. So really what I would tell for anyone that's questioning whether or not they should change to a fiber optic network, can you afford to be left behind in terms of technology? Are you onboarding a younger demographic into your community that might have more needs for bandwidth? And I think most communities would say yes. And one thing that I gathered from this this panel is the need for bandwidth, for performance, for that high availability. It's here, and it's achievable over fiber, the fiber that we have in the ground today. So really, an $80,000 savings. Well, in the grand scheme of things, it is pretty significant. The value that fiber brings to a community far outweighs that minor savings.
Thank you. Andrew, what can we expect in terms of access control and what's coming down the pike?
I think introducing, like, improving our camera offering, right? I think that's really important. Like you mentioned, to a lot of our clients, especially in Florida, there's a lot of new laws around having cameras in specific places, like you mentioned, the pool area, things of like that nature. So also we're introducing license plate reading cameras as well. So just improving the overall kind of bringing everything to the modern world of, everybody use their phone for everything, and incorporating that with an additional level of security to the community. I think it's really, really a powerful tool.
Thank you. And Frank, what do you see coming up with electronic voting?
Yeah, definitely. So by and large, we see associations, condominiums, and HOAs, both alike, jumping on electronic voting in a very quick manner. I think that they're seeing the benefits of it. In terms of what you're going to see in the future, it's a lot more hybrid meetings. So your typical regular board meeting at the community park, as exciting as that is in the 100-degree weather that we've got coming up in Florida, is going to morph to something like a virtual Zoom meeting. Owners will have the ability to vote from their cruise ship, right, or from France, as Andrew says, or just about anywhere in the world on that material alteration vote or any other binding vote in the community. And then the days of, again, all having to physically be there present to cast a vote, otherwise your vote doesn't count, are kind of going away. So we do see a quick adoption of electronic voting. We've got north of 30% of the communities in Florida already adopting e-voting, and it's just happening at a very, very high rate. They're seeing the benefits out of it, Chris. So it's one of the unfortunate but fortunate kind of circumstances that came out of COVID, where we reached for electronic options for these communities and made sure that they worked, and they're seeing the benefits out of it. We're working internally here on a few features for our end. Those include the self-survey option, which is kind of in beta and coming out of that. And then also what we call virtual board meetings. So we've got a few tricks up our sleeves that we're working on. I did want to address some of the questions that were posted there, and I do appreciate the questions. I know that condominium owner posted, does the board have to amend the current documents to allow for electronic voting to be used? And the answer is no. The simple board resolution will take care of that. It actually takes precedent over your current association documents. So even if you're an association out there that has very old docs, and you feel like you will never be able to adopt electronic voting because it requires a membership vote, that's wrong. You do not require a membership vote to adopt electronic voting. A board resolution will take care of that for you, and feel free to reach out. I put my information on the chat. In terms of cost, this is a few dollars per door per year. These are unlimited plans. So again, the return on investment is huge, and I put my contact info there. One last one. I know I had a gentleman reach out saying they needed a meeting booked or a demo booked. Again, my information is in the chat. If you need it, let me know again. We'll get you on a demo as early as tomorrow, this week. If there's any other questions for electronic voting, feel free to reach out directly to us. But it's the way of the future, Chris. Just to kind of summarize the thoughts here on your question, it's happening. Managers are tired of counting paper ballots till 2 a.m. Attorneys, even, I think that was our biggest surprise, right? Because remember, wonderful attorneys in the state of Florida get paid by the hour as well to attend these annual meetings. They don't want to be out there till 2 a.m. either, right? So they're happy to see this electronic voting system up and running, leverage the efficiencies of electronic voting, and kind of streamline the processes in the association management space that have always kind of been behind the curve as it pertains to technology. We're certainly seeing a big push in the way of technology now in associations.
Thank you, guys. And just a quick intro for anybody that does not know much about Affinity. We really embrace the use of technology where we can be efficient, and we provide services primarily in the South Florida market to both condominiums and HOAs. I believe we have a couple of co-op clients as well. But my name is Chris Cooney. I'm with the business development team. If you have any questions for us, you can email us at info@managedbyaffinity.com, or I'll put my contact info in there as well. Thank you, guys. If there are, I want to see if there are any other remaining questions before we give everybody a few minutes of their day back. But I really appreciate you guys coming on. I know your companies are doing really good things to make the resident experience better and safer. So I commend you for that. I'm typing my stuff here.
Chat.
Frank, I had a community that was voting on Butterfly MX, and I believe they used your system to vote on whether to install Butterfly MX or not.
Awesome. Yeah, that's those membership votes are required. So good. Hope that it went kind of positively. We'll get the participation, right? Certainly don't force an opinion one way or another, but we will get the participation. There's a lot of things in these communities that trigger membership votes. I know we've done a roofing project, right? In a community, it required ownership vote. And again, I think our biggest, kind of like almost an emotional use case was this past year when we got the storms kind of in the hurricanes ripping right through Siesta Key. We had a community that was already online with electronic voting. So they did have the service already. Owners obviously evacuated Siesta Key, and it did get damaged pretty badly with the storm, brought in a bunch of sand, water. Without the owners being there, how do you have an in-person meeting, right, to collect ownership votes, to figure out whether you take a loan from a bank to start these restoration projects that were very much needed? And so they were able to leverage, the system was already up and running. Owners were obviously not on site, and they were sent their electronic votes to vote for basically what became a bank loan for this restoration project until the insurance kind of kicked back in and provided the reimbursements for them. So when I kind of heard things like that, I was like, wow, that's way out of the normal, scope that we think of for electronic voting. We think of annual meeting elections, and here was this community in the beautiful west coast of Florida, trying to get their community back together by leveraging this membership vote. So when you hear things like that, it kind of really takes precedent over any of these other, folks that are thinking, well, electronic voting is bad. No, it can be good to a high degree, especially in those cases.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to our viewers. We do record these sessions, and we should have the recording available by tomorrow. I want to thank everyone and look for our next webinar coming up in June. Have a great afternoon, people.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys.